My name is Clay Kazmierski. This is Matthew Corey. We are the president and CEO of Pangea Wealth Management. We are the ones who manage the 401k plan here for MC Companies. So a little bit about ourselves. I know you see in front of you pamphlets for paychecks. We don't work for paychecks. We are 401k and group retirement plan specialists. So out of the 500,000 financial advisors in the United States, there are 500 of us that are deemed specialists in the eyes of the Department of Labor, and Matt and I are two of them. So what we know to do is to take us from point A to point B and make sure that we're running a plan that's not only most efficient for the company, but more importantly, how it's working for you. So as specialists, and what that means is we operate on a fiduciary capacity. So every decision as a fiduciary that we make on the 401k plan has to be in the best interest of the participants. So as we sit up here and we talk to you about the plan and all the different options, just understand that we're always looking out and making sure that we're offering the best possible plan and the best possible advice to you and each and every participant here at MC Companies. So, well, with that being said, let's start with the basics. A 401k plan. Why do you think a 401k plan is called a 401k plan? Any idea?
Some kind of government number.
Of course,
Yeah.
Every time there's numbers and letters involved, you're probably getting like a citation,
Yeah.
or ticket. But for the most part, 401k is a tax line item code, right? So 401k is just what you can and can't do within the tax line item code. So specifically, it speaks to an employer and a group plan for retirement, right? But since it's just a tax line item code, we're going to kind of go over some taxes, how they affect you, some different types of accounts, and how those accounts are taxed, so that you can see where that 401k fits into your kind of your financial world, right? We can start making some intelligent decisions as to what do I do with my money. Make sense? So since we are talking about our buddies the IRS, we're going to make a little triangle here, which touches 3 types of accounts. And these are, I always do that, it's too tall, but then he jumps in. The 3 types of accounts we're going to start going over is how you can kind of put your money away, right? And we're going to simplify it a little bit easier as to how it affects you. So I'll let you on that side.
Fun. All right. Well, the first type of account here is what we call tax me now and tax me later. All right, so in this account, after tax dollars go in, okay, you get your paycheck, and let's just say for simplicity's sake, you see all the deductions come off the top of the paycheck, and then at the end of it, let's just say to make it easy, that paycheck's $10. You take that $10, you put it into this account. A year later, that $10 has grown to $11, which means we have $1 of gains, right? So at that point, we've got taxed on the way in, and then each and every year, you get taxed on your gains. So 100% of your gains will be taxed at short-term or long-term capital gains. So the downside to this is that you get taxed twice, right? On the way in and on the way out. The positive side is liquidity. So any idea what types of accounts go here? This would be savings, CDs, checking account, believe it or not. There was a day that there's actually got interest. Anything that we just call non-retirement accounts. So the benefit to this type of account is having accessibility. So if the car breaks down or the AC breaks, you have cash on hand to help take care of that issue. Does anyone know the rule of thumb for how much you should have in savings? I don't.
Sick rate, wasn't it 6 times?
Yep, you're right. Yeah, we don't make up the rules. We're just telling them to you. But in this case, if you're a single income household, 6 months, dual income household, 3 months of your bills, you're supposed to have set aside.
Does that make sense though? So in your savings account, checking account, everybody asks, how much cash on hand should I have? Well, first you have to find out what your monthly expenses are in your bills, and then multiply that by either 3 or 6, and that's what you should have in the rainy day fund, they call it. I don't understand why rainy days are more expensive than other days, but they call it the rainy day fund. I don't get it.
Fortunately, they don't happen often.
Yeah, especially because I'm from Arizona,
Yeah.
like a rainy day. That's a good thing.
Here you just need sunscreen.
Right, exactly. But so here's the money most people put their money in their paycheck in, right? Now, you can actually invest in this, but like we were saying, you just paid money on the way in. If we invest in it and it makes money, we're getting taxed again, right? So for long-term savings, it's not the best and most practical way to really accumulate wealth. Because when we take 3 steps forward, we have to take 1 step back in taxes, right? So, our buddies, the IRS, and their infinite wisdom came out with other ways to save, right? This one we call tax me later. Let me explain a little bit how this works. Unlike here, where we're paying taxes on the money going in there, we get to not pay taxes on this money. Kind of nice. So they call it before tax contributions going into this account. That just means on your paycheck, those deductions, this is one of them. We get to not pay taxes on this, right? Goes into this account. If it grows, when it grows, if it grows,
Yeah.
that gets to grow tax deferred. It's growing and growing and growing, and we are not paying any taxes on that growth, right? The catch is, since the IRS is touching this bucket, he's going to want his money. When does Uncle Sam get his money? When you pull it out. 100% of that is taxed on the way out. Make sense? No taxes on the way in, it grows tax deferred, and once we want it in retirement, that's when we're paying taxes. Any idea what these accounts are called? No takers? Not even in the back? They don't know how small the room is. Anybody heard of an IRA? Stands for Individual Retirement Account, right? Pensions work that way. Did anybody have a pension?
Thank you for that.
Years ago, yeah, I used to have a pension.
Well, your 401k
Can work
works
like-
that way, and really, retirement accounts work in that way. Make sense? So the idea is long-term savings. Tax me later. Give me a deduction today, put it in a bucket so it can grow and grow and grow and grow, and when I want to go retire and go water skiing every day,
Right.
that's when I can use my money, and that's when Uncle Sam's going to tax you.
And now, what age do they let you touch this money though?
59.5.
59 and a half, that is correct. So in this case, we can't touch these assets till 59 and a half, really making it what equates to a long-term savings. Anybody know why it was 59 and a half? Why the IRS chose that day? Kind of weird that like half a year, right? I just don't
Make it
really know.
harder.
My guess is it has to do with mortality tables, much like Social Security. So, Social Security was developed though during the 1930s during the Great Depression. So there's a reason that you get Social Security at 62, 66, and 70. Why do you think they gave those certain dates and ages? Because in 1930 you weren't supposed to live that long afterwards. So kind of sounds bad and a bit morbid, but at 62, 66, and 70, they weren't anticipating you know, like my grandparents, I see them on Facebook skydiving.
Yeah.
They weren't anticipating that, you know, golden age and these people and, you know, continuing to live longer and longer. So now the average age is 88 and people are living much longer. So with that, that's why you hear Social Security's in trouble, right? Some you may have heard that.
Social Security's not in trouble. The fact of the matter is, we're living longer.
Yeah.
We're breaking the system, right? We have a whole generation of people who are now living longer than expected. That's totally fine. I'm not saying the solution is to die. Right? That is not the solution we're looking for. The idea is all of this math and all of this planning was done for a different time. This was a time when pensions were around. We could expect a pension from the railroad we were working for, or, you know, the oil company. It's just not the same anymore, right? The demographics different, the dynamics different. Social Security was gonna be there because you were really supposed to just be in this little realm where we could have a social net for aging population. Made perfect sense, right? 401k came about to augment that. Just kind of on a side note, you're gonna have a pension and Social Security, life is gonna be good, and if you wanted to go skydiving, guess what? It came from your 401k. Make sense? Well now, what's left? 401k. So we still have this tool to be able to save for ourselves, but we really have to start paying attention because guess what? That's really matriculated to the best case scenario to help ourselves, right? It's another bucket. I want to save it for last because it's kind of nice.
And he can't reach the top.
And I can't
Yeah.
reach the top, so.
All right, last
Oh,
one.
he just dissed you behind your
I can't tell
We got it
because
on
it's
camera.
Yeah.
it's from really high.
Yeah.
I'll go with the film.
The last bucket that we have here is what we call tax me, never, ever again. Now, I say again because there's no avoiding taxes, but in this case, this is after tax dollars going in. Okay? So just like here where you're taxed on the way in, it's the same scenario in this bucket. However, unlike here where you're taxed on the gains each and every year, this grows. tax-free. And then when it comes time to withdraw these assets, unlike here where we're taxing every penny on the way out, this comes out tax-free.
Because you were already taxed on it.
Yep.
On the way in.
You're getting taxed on the way in, but then you get tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals from this account. Anybody know what type of account goes here?
Roth
Roth.
IRA.
Roth. That's
Does anybody
correct.
know what Roth stands for?
Retirement.
Yes, that messed me up for years. It's not an acronym. It's some guy's last name. It was his last name for years. I'm like, Roth, retirement on tap. But for the most part, though, it's a different tool we can use, right? It's something that takes kind of the best of both worlds, and it's available.
So now, within the 401k plan, we have a Roth 401k. So you have the ability to save both in this bucket and in this bucket. A few facts here about how much you can save. So in a 401k, you're able to save this year, it's upwards of $18,000 a year if you're under the age of 50. If you're over the age of 50 and you want to catch up, you can do another $6,000, so your maximum contribution is $24,000. All right? You can split that up however you like. Now, Roth IRA or traditional IRA outside of a 401k plan, your maximum contributions are about $5,000 to $6,500 a year, right? In total between both of those. Given the fact that we have the 401k, we have the ability to save more. Now, in a Roth IRA outside of a 401k plan, if you have the wonderful problem of making too much money, you cannot contribute to a Roth IRA. Oh, and what I mean by that, the income limitations are single income, more than basically 90,000, you cannot contribute to a Roth IRA. Dual income household, total income about 170 to 180, you cannot contribute to a Roth IRA. But in this case, we're in a 401k plan. They cannot discriminate against someone for making too much money. So if you're in that wonderful situation, you can still contribute to the Roth because it is a group plan. It is not an individual retirement account. It is a tax line item code that shows how you can save within your employer-sponsored plan. Make sense? So we have all these bells and whistles, right, that are available within the 401k plan. Our job is to help you make sense of it and to take all of these moving parts and help build a plan to get you to retirement. So the company has this as a benefit to you, but it's a group benefit that we're here to bring to you as an individual benefit, meaning that you have this 401k plan to retire. So I have it, right? And so our job is to help get you to that retirement age. So as we're talking here, I want you to start thinking, what age do you want to retire? How much income do you want to live off of? What is life going to look like at that point? Because what we're going to do is sit down and help you get to that point. All right? So I'll give you an example.
Let's just say I want to retire,
Yep.
right? And I'm going to retire at 65. It's a good age. It's also past my 59 and a half, right? It's not arbitrary. And $100,000 would be a good number for me to live on. Why? Because I think it'd work, kind of be nice. Secondarily, it's easy math. My friend here isn't good with math. So I need $100,000 per year. I'm retired now, right? Most people have all of their assets right here. Let's pretend I have a pension, I have an IRA, a 401k, Social Security's coming to me. Guess what? That's taxable too, right? And I take my $100,000 that I need every year out of this bucket. How much of that's being taxed? 100%, right?
So historically speaking, that would put you at a 30% tax bracket. That is $30,000 a year in taxes over the course of a 30-year retirement. You just paid $900,000 in taxes.
And he killed me off at 95.
Yeah.
Just so you know. But it happens. That's how long retirement is. When we run illustrations for our retirees, they're asking us to run it to 95, 110. Why? Because their folks are still alive. We have the wonderful problem of having sophisticated medicine, right? So this is not somewhere out of the realm of possibility. You need to start planning on a 30-year retirement.
But now if we do our planning accordingly and we do it the right way, so instead of taking all $100,000 from here, we take $50,000 from the Roth and $50,000 from the traditional bucket, right? So instead of taking $100,000 from here, we're taking 50 from the Roth and 50 from here. Now, we're still living off $100,000,
I am.
but we're only getting taxed on 50, right? So historically speaking, that's a 25% tax bracket, which is $12,500 a year in taxes over a 30-year retirement is $375,000. So without worrying about rate of return or what the investment options are or what the market's doing this week, just by having a game plan on understanding your different options and putting that plan in place, in this hypothetical situation that Matt saved $525,000 over the course of his retirement.
Why is your tax bracket different?
It's because we're getting taxed on $50,000 as opposed to $100,000.
But your tax bracket's based on your level of income when you retire.
Sure.
Because
Well,
my
what's-
thought process is when I
This
retire,
doesn't count.
I'm going to be at a lower level of income, so I'll be taxed at a lower level versus now.
Great point. So a lot of people think, I'm gonna put all my money here, right? Tax me later, right?
Not all of it, but I mean, that's.
Sure. That's the mentality, right?
Yeah.
It should be, because if you're in your highest earning years should be anywhere from 40 to 55, statistically speaking, when your highest earning years are supposed to be, right? So you're theoretically paying a lot of taxes on that money, right? So you're like, man, how, I make too much money, this is horrible, right? Some people have that. So they put their money here. Why? Because it's a dollar for dollar deduction. So this bucket grows and grows and grows. And in retirement, they're thinking, man, I'm just gonna sit there on the porch and read books and drink lemonade. It rarely happens that way. The first couple years of retirement, what are they doing? They jump in the RV, they're visiting grandkids, they're skydiving. You know,
Going on
they're
trips,
doing a lot of
visiting Europe, whatever
things
they be.
that they were waiting to do in retirement. All those things cost money. And guess what? They're not getting a paycheck anymore. They have to create their own paycheck. You take it from here, 100% of that's taxed. If I'm living off of $100,000, it's a 30% tax bracket. If I still want to skydive and do those types of things, I still need $100,000. But what if I'm only taxed on half of it? Why? Because I start using this.
Right, you got to use both vehicles to balance
Yep,
each
and
other
for,
out.
and for the right purpose too.
Right.
If this, you're never going to take everything out at once, because that means you're going to get hit with the taxes on everything. So a good way of thinking about it is your monthly bills when you get to retirement. Try to get an understanding of what they are. So let's just say they're $3,000 a month. If you can take $4,000 and then after tax have that $3,000 from here and always have that systematically paying your monthly bills, well then everything that you use from the Roth, you can take out when needed to go have fun and do nice stuff. So
The idea is to just to have these buckets in retirement.
Yep.
It's a wonderful way to theorize what it's going to be like, but I'm telling you right now, I guess they asked Mike Tyson, it was the funniest thing. They go, Mike Tyson, when, you know, there's all these people that have these wonderful ways of how they're going to beat you in the ring. Well, Mike Tyson said, everybody thinks they have a plan until I punch him in the face. I thought that was the coolest thing ever, because he's right. You think it's gonna be some way, and you have all these wonderful tools, and it might be different. The idea is to have options so that when you get punched in the face, you can actually bob and weave a little bit.
So feel like it is like a bar stool, right? So you want to be well balanced for the short term, for the long term, and the intermediate and tax-free long term as well. Right? So if you sit down, each leg is sturdy, and you stay balanced. Most people's bar stool looks something like this. Right? You sit down on that bar stool, you're going to tip over, smack your head on the bar. So
Now, these explanations aren't to try to explain that one's better than the other. They're trying to explain that these options exist, right? So within the 401k, here's what it looks like. Here's the types of things. So let's start talking about our organization.
Just keep in mind too, you do have a match associated with the plan. That is 50 cents on the dollar up to 6%. So if you put 6% in, you get 3%. That's 3% free money. Right? It's really nice. Think about it though, that 3% that they're going to give you is always going to, the MC is going to give you, is going to go into this bucket. Why AMC is going to take the deduction for offering you that benefit. So the contributions that you make, you can choose either one, but their contribution is always going to go into the before tax bucket. Make sense? Okay. So again, though, we have all these moving parts and all these options. It's our job to sit down and help make sense of that for you and to point you in the right direction. So again, just come wielding whatever your goals and objectives are. Yes?
Maybe I lost something, but why would you want to put, you said to balance the intermediate and
Long term and short term.
long term. Why would you not want to put it all in intermediate?
Well, because the Roth is kind of intermediate. You pay taxes on the way in, and so that means that those funds are typically available, but it's not until 5 years, and you'd have to leave employment at that point to access those funds. So really, it's
because of the restriction?
yeah, it's kind of tightly restricted, but it can be used for the intermediate term.
Roth makes a heck of a whole lot of sense.
So what was the question for the filming to?
The question was, why not put all of your money in the intermediate, right? Why not just heavily and overly fund this Roth portion, right? Makes a lot of sense, because if I put money in there, it grows and grows and grows, and I only use it when I need it, and that's when I'm paying taxes. It's like the best piggy bank in the world, right? What if you need a tax deduction today? Every dollar you put into the before tax means on your W-2, you're reducing your taxable income today. So there's a lot of folks that want to reduce their tax liability, and this is a great way to do it.
So everybody's situation is different. In this case, if you're 58 years old and making $200,000 a year, the compounding interest you'd receive from the Roth really wouldn't be as beneficial as the tax deduction you would get by putting this in before tax. Make sense? But if you're 35 years old and making $80,000, $90,000 a year, and you have time on your side for compounding interest, the Roth might make a whole lot of sense. So that's why each person's different, and when we sit down, we'll be able to help point you in the right direction. So
about your plan, who's eligible, right? Let's go over eligibility. You have to be working here for at least 1 year to be able to jump into the plan. Once you've been here for a year, though, you can jump into the plan whenever you'd like. Make sense so far? Okay. You can put $18,000 a year away, except that everything you're going to see is going to be in the language of percentages. So don't let that confuse you. There's not a percentage maximum that you can do. You can do upwards of 90% of your paycheck. Almost all of it can go right in there. The only reason why it's 90 is because there's going to be food and food and stuff that needs to get paid on your behalf. But you can almost put your entire paycheck in there up until the point of $18,000, or if you're doing the catch-up provision, it's a little more. Easy enough? Now, when you elect a percentage of your pay, you are going to get a match from the company. And we described that match earlier. Remember what it was?
50% up to
6%.
For the microphone, we're going to repeat that.
Max is 3.
Max is 3. So if you put in 6% of your salary, you will receive 3% in return from the company. That's free money. And the rule of thumb is that you're supposed to be able to save 10% of your salary from the time you're 35 to the time you're 65 to live the same exact lifestyle you're living today.
Save what percentage of your salary?
10%.
10%.
Is the overall savings. So think about it. If you put away 6 here, you're actually getting 9 because they're offering that match.
Exactly. So for every percentage, you get half percent, right? Put in 2, you're getting number. You put in 6, you get 9. So here's where it gets tricky. You put in 7, what do you get?
3.
You put in 8, what do you get?
3.
Okay, so that's, you want to maximize your match, 6 is the number. Now we get super excited about maximizing our match and getting all this free money, right? What we're doing though is we're saying, you're going to take some of my paycheck and put it into this account, right? So really the first question isn't how can I maximize my match? It's good to know that. But the first question is, how much can I put away? Because you get really excited, we jump online and there's going to be all kinds of calculators, but you're going to get excited to put money away, but if you don't have enough money to feed your kids and pay your rent or your mortgage or your car payment, retirement's kind of a foregone thing, right? So first question for yourself is, it's a function of budget. How much can I put away?
So
And if you think you can do 6, but you're not sure, why don't you start at 3, right? And then if that feels nice, 6 months later.
So the first question we're going to ask when we sit down with you one-on-one is going to be, what is your monthly take-home and what are your monthly bills? Because that's where it all starts. We got to realize what you can save, but let's do it in a practical manner that makes sense. So just to throw it out there, have that information ready. So again, it's 21 years of age. You have to be here for a year. The match is the 3% if you put in 6. Also, there's a vesting schedule associated with the match. It's a 5-year graded. So what that means is that the first year you're 20% vested, then 40%, then 60%, then 80%, then 100% vested in what the company has given you. Anything that you put in is always going to be yours right off the bat. But for what the company is giving you, they want to incentivize you to stay here because they want you to be part of the group.
Which makes a lot of sense,
Yep.
right? They're getting you free money, they'd like you to be here for a while.
So it's a 5-year graded on that as well. So we went through all the options, what are all the eligibility? Yes, I'm sorry.
So if you can't start till your first year, does your 5-year vesting start after your first year or from your first day of hire?
Great question.
Yeah.
It should, the way the plan's set up, it's their first day of hire.
Okay.
So
Almost positive.
very good question though. So we have the parameters of which we can save. We then have all the buckets of which we can save. So we take that information now and then we break it down to the actual investments. So As a financial advisor, and this goes for any financial advisor or 401k specialist, doesn't matter, we are not allowed to tell you how to invest in your 401k account. Guess what the number one question I get every time I sit down with somebody?
How do we invest?
How do we invest, right? So we've set it up in certain ways where you guys can follow along with our logic. It might make it a little bit easier for you here. And what we can do though is we can ask you how much, what your financial goals and objectives are and help build the plan around that. And based upon that plan, it should help point you in the right direction as to how to invest within the 401k. So let's explain just kind of the basics of investing. Who here knows what a mutual fund is? One? All right, so you're having fun, I'm having fun, right? It's a long time. No, didn't.
Mutual fund.
Yeah.
It's a bushel of stocks, that's what it is. So you ever heard the phrase, don't put all your eggs in one basket? That is what we're referring to with a mutual fund. So we like to look at it as a window pane. Here's a single pane window and a multi-pane window. So there's some kids out in the street playing baseball, right? Somebody hits a foul ball and comes and hits your single pane window. Let's call this window, I don't know, Enron? Right? And that window being all of your assets, boom, there goes all your money, right? With a mutual fund, it'll diversify. So this example is a very large company, or used to be. So Enron might be this window, but here we have IBM, we have Apple,
We wish.
Disney, GE, there you go, Starbucks. So if that baseball comes and does hit the Enron window pane, you have the rest of it there to keep it sturdy. Make sense? It's the idea of spreading out your assets and having diversification. So what I just gave you an example of is a large cap mutual fund. So a large cap mutual fund means a bushel of stocks made up of really, really large companies. Right? So the S&P 500, does anyone know why it's called the S&P 500?
There's 500 companies.
I'm sorry?
There's 500 companies.
That's right. So it's made up of the 500 largest domestic companies here in the United States, right? So that would be an example of large cap companies. Case being General Electric. There's also mid-cap companies. Still really, really large companies, still publicly traded, just not as big as the huge conglomerates. In this case, a good example of a mid-cap company would be Best Buy, the electronics store, right? Then there's also small cap companies. Small cap, we're not talking about your local 5 and 10 here, we're still talking rather large publicly traded companies, just not as big as the Best Buys or the GEs. Good example of a small cap company would be Chico's, the clothing store. That is a publicly traded small cap company.
And Clay's favorite.
We're also in a global economy, so there's international mutual funds, of which there are large cap international companies, mid cap international companies, and small cap. I mean, think about it, Nestle, the Quick. It's actually a large cap company. It's located in England. Sony, Toyota, still massive companies, but you need to have proper diversification. We don't only have to be domestically allocated accordingly, but globally. And then we have fixed, or debt, which historically have been the safer way to go. Meaning that they're
Usually bonds.
bonds and treasuries and more conservative investments, right? So in your infinite wisdom of wealth management, what the Department of Labor wants you to do is to take all of these options of which we provided, and for you to come up with an allocation that is perfectly diversified for your goals and objectives. So with that, some people do. That is option one. Option one is invest it yourself. A lot of people do, in fact, like to do that. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you have the right options available to you. We've screened them. We watch them constantly. You'll have the ability to diversify effectively. If you're not a do-it-yourselfer, right, and you don't want to play wealth manager, we have a default, or what we call a QDIA, Qualified Default Investment Alternative. So if you choose nothing in the plan, you will default into a target date fund, all right? So what that means, let's use Matt and I as an example. We're 35 years old. What we would do is if we defaulted into this plan, we would land in the 2045 target date fund. Reason being is that you will fall into a target date based upon at what age you come closest to turning 65, right? At which target date. So Matt and I would be in the 2045 fund because that would be closest to him and I turning 65 years old. So what that does is you'll have it more aggressively invested in the beginning. As time goes on, you become less and less aggressive the closer we get to retirement. Because you want to start to conserve some of that, those assets that you've garnered.
Make sense? So when you're going online picking investments, that's really the third thing you need to ask yourself, right? Number one, start from the beginning. Budget, how much can I save, right? Number two, where do I want to put it? Before tax, after tax? Number three, okay, I've made all these wonderful decisions about myself. What do I do with my money? Well, we have options in there that says if I don't want to make my own allocation and rebalance it, you can do a target date fund. And target date funds are in your packet. When you jump online, you'll be able to see all the investments. You'll be able to drill down to each investment and pick those apart as well. To be able to do that, you need to jump online.
So that is the let someone kind of do it for me approach, because they will allocate, these target date funds will reallocate on an annual basis and be more aggressive and then less aggressive as time goes on and constantly be investing on your behalf, right? So that's why we want you to come to the one-on-one sit-downs with questions about and really the answers to when you want to retire, because that can help point your plan in the right direction. So,
Any questions thus far? We've kind of covered a whole lot of material. No?
all right, so now enrolling. Go ahead.
These little pamphlets, and we're also going to get you an electronic version. Really what it's doing is, enrollment's all online, okay? So you're going to go to the website, and it should have some sort of questions having to do with who you are, name, date of birth, some other stuff to say that you are you. Very important, right? Because these accounts are your accounts. They're actually portable. If you leave employment here, God forbid, I think it's the greatest company on earth, you might want to take your money with you. So make sure that your information in there is correct. That's why we actually like online enrollment, so that you can put down exactly where you live so that you get all the information. You can also jump online and see your account every day, okay? So the website is right there. Now, when you register for an account, it's going to bring you through a wizard to ask all these questions. Number one, it's going to ask you how much you want to save. When they're saying percentage-wise, they're talking about how much of your pay do you want to put away. They're never going to mention the match. It's just going to happen, okay? So you're not going to see it on the enrollment. They're asking you about you. They're also going to ask you if you can put it in before tax or after tax, or both. If you say 6% is my magic number I want to save, but I want to do 3 to the Roth and 3 to the before tax, you can actually split that up. Okay? Make sense? From there, once I've enrolled, I'm going to want to add, it's going to ask you beneficiary information. What is a beneficiary? Since this is your account, tagging your social security number, if something happened to you, you want to make sure that your beneficiary's got your money. Beneficiary is someone who's going to get your money, who's going to benefit from this account. Now, if you are married,
You didn't say happily married. You mean legally married.
legally married, your spouse is your primary beneficiary, right? If you do not want your spouse to be your primary beneficiary, we have to get a form. It's also available online. You print that thing out, you fill it out, and you go to your spouse saying, here, sign this.
And also get it notarized, so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's got to be notarized.
So good luck with that.
Wonderful dinner conversation.
The idea is, it does happen. I was getting a divorce at one time, and I had to make sure that still, up until that was final, my spouse, that was the beneficiary in the account until we were officially divorced. So understand, if you're going through something like that, you can't just change it right now legally. If you're married, legally they have to be the primary beneficiary unless they consent to not being that beneficiary.
That being said, once that's done, they might ask for a contingent. It just means if you guys are both in the same horrific accident, then who? So that's important too. It's also kept electronically. You're supposed to keep it on site too, but electronically is kind of nice as well. Once you have the beneficiary on there, now we're asking for investments. Make sense?
And it's going to ask for social security number. Try to have it available. It's really going to be helpful.
For
It
the
has,
beneficiaries.
yeah, for your beneficiaries. We've had situations where, you know, there's a junior senior and it ends up going to the senior father as opposed to the junior son. Can cause really massive problems. And it's just best to get it done right the first time. So, and another question we'll often get is, hey, I have a trust. Should my trust be the beneficiary? On IRA accounts, we can consult your estate planning attorney. But majority of the time, what they'll end up telling you is that the spouse would be the primary beneficiary and the trust would be the contingent.
Depending on how it's written.
Yep.
I have like 3 of them.
Now, if you have any assets outside of the 401k plan currently, they might ask you, do you have any other assets? Would you like to roll them into the 401k plan currently at MC Companies? Hold off on that. Consult with us first. You have one of a few different options, and we'll be able to point you in the direction as to which option is going to be best for you. So you will have a multitude of options. Don't just automatically jump into throwing money into the 401k plan. As much as we would love you to do that, I want to make sure you're doing what's right for you. So if you have that question, please just give us a call. Yeah. We have a sign-up sheet there for today. For those of you who are watching the video, we will send out our contact information and make times available, and look forward to helping you guys. So, any questions for us?
Are these our options for this year?
Those are the investment options, correct?
Do you have any return information? or
It's
when
all
to
online.
buy- It's
Um,
all online,
Yep.
okay.
You could drill down in every account and it'll show you the underlying assets, expense
Okay.
ratios, all that wonderful stuff.
All that one.
Score sheet.
Yeah.
Because we are specialists, we get the ability to kind of prefer pricing in a way, or at least know how to find it. So you'll find a lot of those are very, very cost-effective investment options.
Good point. So the share class and retirement account is usually different because they're institutional share classes most of the time. So if you go to like Yahoo Finance and you try to find the same fund, you might find something similar, but the expenses will be different. So go through the website to get fund information because you'll have the correct.
And every year you'll get the fee disclosure too. So
Okay.
Right. Thanks so much. Sign up sheets.
right there and right there.
Is it my fun to, like, what, 6 or 8 months ago when we switched? We're still the same.
Investment options.
Right.
Yes, we have.
No, nothing else has
Do
changed.
we have any fund changes? No. Yes, you.
So there was a notice that went out
Yeah.
last week to everyone who is eligible for the plan, in the plan, has visions of ever being in the plan. And that was just a federally mandated notice that has to go out to plan.
Explain the fees.
No, it really does. So online it will. You have every single fund expense that's on there. And there's also a fee disclosure that goes out as well.
Annually.
And
Yep.
should be online as well.
Well, and another advantage of a 401k plan through an employer is that the employer is paying the administrative fees for.
I mean, if I'm gonna pay
For the
somebody,
plan.
I might as well.
Yeah. As fiduciaries on a plan,
I think
it is our, to make sure that we're doing what's right for all the participants, a big part of that, and with the disclosures and the regulations, is making sure we have the most cost-effective plan. So we're constantly screening the funds and benchmarking the platforms to make sure that we have something that is extremely cost-effective. And then compare that to every other plan of similar size and similar number of employees nationwide, just to make sure we're not just on par, but hopefully below what the national averages are.